And oops. Hi, this is Steve Gillmor, and this is an abbreviated edition of the Gillmor Gang. Also a Sunday edition. Also, I'm in iPad 2 hell. Also, I have John Taschek's iPad sitting next to me.
I'll have to pick that up at some point.
Yes, you will.
All right.
Also,
maybe in an hour.
Seeing a message from Francine Hardaway about how she can't watch the show because she has gone to South by Southwest with only her iPad 2 and therefore is flashless. And I would redirect the concern to Ustream, which seems to have not mastered the notion that there are some 15 million of these iPads out here. So, this is the Gillmor Gang. We've already heard in the background from John Taschek. Welcome, John.
Thanks, Steve. Good to be here on the special Sunday edition.
And joining us in the center today, the center square is Paul Lynn. No, it's Robert Scoble.
Hey, what's up? Just got back seconds ago from the best barbecue I've ever had.
Ooh, Southern barbecue.
Oh, yeah.
It's the best one you've ever had?
Best. Smitty's Market. Best in Texas. I haven't been to Tennessee, so can't say it's best in the world, but everybody says it's the best in Texas. It was awesome.
And is this, how's the alcohol going, by the way?
So far, pretty well.
No problem.
There's lots of free alcohol all over town. It's the weirdest thing.
Yes. I'm not going to do a line from TV or not TV. Yes, Clark, we take drugs pretty seriously at our house, too. Okay.
Spring Break for Geeks is on and in force.
Yeah, I don't know about how geeky they are. So there's been some...
there's a lot of geeks out on my bus. We just went to we just went to Smitty's Market in Lockhart and took the Delivering Happiness bus. That's why I have the Delivering Happiness VIP badge, which is one of the cooler things to have because there's a bar on the bus, and they take you from party to party. So it's like you can stay inebriated all night long if you want.
Yeah. You also have to get one of those kidney transplant stickers as well.
Liver.
Liver, sorry. Go on.
Maybe kidneys also.
We had the founder of Launch Rock on our bus. We had the founder of Flipboard and
the founder of Flipboard.
Yeah, co-founder because two guys started it. Evan Dahl was on our bus, and we had the Where app was on our bus. So there's a lot of geeks. There's a lot of geeks here. There's a lot more. Where?
Where's on first?
Yeah. What?
I'm not sure I understand. What is Where?
Where's an app? It's sort of like Foursquare. And where would you like to go? You open the app and it gives you a bunch of suggestions.
So I want to get to a meta question at some point, which is, does the South by Southwest magic still work in terms of, are we going to see somebody coming out of here that is going to be like Foursquare was last year and Twitter was in yesterday? I found one app that I'm really enjoying called Local Mind. That's not what I asked. I asked whether there's going to be any traction.
Yeah, I think so. It's even bigger than last year, and it has this feel that it really is being much more important to be here than in past years. I was on Dan Rather Reports last night. The mainstream media is paying attention. On my bus was the camera guy for NBC for the White House.
Dan Rather Reports is on what channel?
Yeah, one of those weird new age cable channels,
Connect or Contact or
the Wayne and Garth channel.
No, who's the guy who owns the Mavericks?
Charlie Sheen?
Oh, Charlie Sheen.
Yeah, Mark Cuban.
Mark Cuban, he owns that channel. It's HDNet.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
It's one of those new channels that you can get only if you have DirecTV or a high-end cable system.
How many people are expected this year?
But I don't get it.
They said the numbers are up about 30%. That sure feels right. The town is definitely more crowded. More streets are blocked this year. The parties are bigger and more lines. So I don't know how many people, but easily many tens of thousands of people.
It's like Comdex before the burnout.
It's getting to that feel where it's not an intimate conference anymore. I mean, this bus thing was the most intimate thing I've done, where where you sat with 15 people for 2 hours. But it's different than it used to be. Whether it's better or not, I don't know. More alcohol, but
So you're having fun anyway. I mean, that's the important part.
so far, yeah. People are having a good time. I think what it really is a forcing function for a lot of the startups to ship, and then once they ship, they come here and have a big party and with everybody else, and it's a lot of fun. I'm not as upbeat as usual. I have had 3 hours of sleep the past 2 nights.
You mean that's a lot?
Yeah, staying out till 3 in the morning. I mean, and I have to leave the party at 3.
Yeah, I see you're tweeting about the carpet situation at the W. It's really a big news tech geek flash there.
Got to play with Instagram at 3 in the morning.
Oh, I see. So is Instagram going to be the big hit coming out of this?
It's one of them. Flipboard just last week turned on an Instagram feature where you can see all of your friends' photos laid out in a beautiful page. And it seems like Instagram has been decided on by the people who come to South by Southwest. I don't hear a lot about the other photo sharing services here.
It's partnerships that make up all these things. If they don't have a partnership, they're not going to be able to succeed. I mean, it's just the way that world's working now. Maybe it always has been.
Absolutely. Instagram having the partnership, you can publish from Instagram to Twitter, Facebook, or Foursquare, Posterous, Tumblr, and now Flipboard displays it. Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything. Go on.
So, the other hot things that are out at South by are the group messaging apps like Yobongo and Beluga and GroupMe, and there's several of them.
GroupMe?
Yeah, GroupMe that would actually be a fun app. I might
There's an app for that.
It's taking an ugly turn. Kevin, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me okay, Steve?
I can hear you. Welcome.
Excellent. There's a bit of background noise here. I'm hoping that's not getting picked up.
It's pretty good.
It's okay. I think it's it's Google Circle's team meeting going on behind you.
Yeah. Is Google Circles being announced today or not?
Not. It's not being announced today.
It's not?
No.
Okay, so we're not really talking about it, in other words.
No.
I thought we were, but apparently not.
We can talk about it. We don't know much about it. But no, it's not being announced today. I've got that definitively from Google people.
Of the Google people. And who would that be?
On
the spot.
I got that from a Google PR person who said, we wouldn't launch something like that at this event. We do a proper event in San Francisco. What are you thinking?
Did you see Chris Messina anywhere?
I haven't seen him yet, no.
Okay, well,
I think he might be downstairs.
If he comes by, we can put him painfully on the spot as well.
There we go. Send out a scout for him.
What was that, Robert?
I got my South by business cards. You can scan that and get all my info. Geekery.
Okay. All right.
That's my social circle comment. Yeah.
So you were trying to get to this particular startup that you think is exciting. What was the name of it?
Local Mind, and I'm trying to find it on my freaking phone. I got too many damn new apps. Oh, there it is. All right. So Local Mind signs in on Foursquare and you. Stop it. And in a second, it'll pop up a bunch of people who are checked in around town. So these people are checked in around town within the past hour.
This is like my worst nightmare, to see this throbbing mass
but you can
of
zoom in.
Alcoholics.
You can zoom in and you can say, well, I want to go over to this bar, or in this case it's a steakhouse, and I can ask the person sitting there, are the steaks really that good there? Should I come over and join you? And they answer back in a few minutes, and it's pretty cool. Pretty cool for South by.
So this is a flash mob app in the GroupMe tradition.
Right. It also lists those questions out as a feed, so you can see what other people are asking. And it's sort of like a Quora, but it's a Quora based on location. So you can see is it worth it to wait in a line, or how long is the line, or are they still serving beer at that party? Those kinds of questions. Works really well at South by when there's 10,000 geeks in town, all partying together. It'll be interesting to see if it works in normal life when we all get home.
So this sounds like a potential feature of Yelp. I mean, do these companies go in there with an exit strategy already built in, like, oh, we're going to go after the Yelp crowd, or do they actually think they're gonna do
these
something?
guys, I mean, a lot of these guys are aiming at trying to get in on Yelp a little bit and find something that Yelp's not willing to do or not able to do. I don't know. These companies are mostly trying to get attention right now, and if they get attention, then they'll worry about the business model later, sort of the Twitter model.
Well, that's not the Twitter model this week. The Twitter model this week is to
no, but how long has Twitter been out on the market?
Close the gates and set up shop.
Yeah, but Twitter's been on the market for what, 4 years? So it took them 4 years to get to the point where they finally are being hard ass about business. And
finally,
well, yeah, I mean, telling all the developers stop building client apps is pretty.
That's pretty harsh and foolish. Yes.
It's harsh and foolish, because what got Twitter where it is.
It's not foolish. Foolish would be a startup that crashed and burned because they had fail whales constantly, and then were overtaken by Facebook and were a footnote in the past. That is not Twitter. Twitter has not been foolish. They've been pretty damn smart.
This seems somewhat
They've
foolish,
been focusing on infrastructure very well, but they're now saying, okay, only we get to use the infrastructure. And that's obviously upset a lot of developers.
What's the point of them doing this? I mean, what
the point is that they're just basically saying what they have already accomplished. They went out and bought the best client for the iPad, the best client for the iPhone, and then they shut down the market.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't this what happened with Apple back in the early Dave Weiner days? After he was a premier developer, they came in and they shut the door.
Yeah.
When they get a critical mass, I mean, this is not new stuff. This is old stuff. This is
exactly. It's old stuff. They shouldn't be doing it anymore.
why?
Yeah,
You mean
because
why? Because they should run away from success?
Yeah.
Oh, foiled.
Well,
Snatching defeat from
this
the
is
jaws
also
of
what
victory.
happens when a company takes how many hundreds of millions of dollars did Twitter take? 360 million, something like that.
Well, how many hundreds of millions of users do they have now? They've grown almost doubled in the last 4 months.
Absolutely.
They do not need to control the user experience at the client level. They should be the plumbing underneath
How are you
it.
going to advertise? The trick is how you're going to monetize and how you're going to force advertising down everybody's throat.
They should have that at the infrastructure level, and then anybody should be able to tap into that.
In what are you going to do? Force people to take tweets, that are fake tweets?
They've already offered that, and that doesn't work. But they could have something more akin to.
The problem is that doesn't work because a fake tweet disappears off my screen in 20 seconds. So
they have promoted tweets. They have they have
like
BCS was a promoted tweet. The basketball the football championship series. They'll probably
never
have one
saw
for
promoted tweets until this last week when they added the dick bar, to my clients.
I don't even know what that is.
I'm going to show it to you in just a second.
You do. You just don't want to admit it.
It's the dick bar is the iPhone Twitter client.
Show me on that Scoble on that other app. Show me where the dick bar is and how many
Show
people
me
are
your
there.
dick bar. Come on, this is
See that dick bar? See the black bar?
It was never a family-friendly
every time you
show.
look
Anyway.
at Twitter, right?
It's friendly. It's just wrong.
Well, it's wrong for a couple reasons. Number one, number one, it doesn't just show advertising. It switches between trending topics and advertising, right? If I refresh it,
I think it's the best thing that Twitter's ever done. No, I'm not kidding.
Why?
Because they're finally putting their foot down and stretch. What is it, stretching their muscles? What's the phrase?
They're putting their dick bar down.
They're slapping their dick bar down on the table.
Come on.
I don't have to say a word. No, it's coming back from having taken an ugly turn.
Yes.
There's nowhere to go after Kevin Mark says that. What else is there left?
All right. I'm still curious why Twitter controlling the client is a good thing.
Because it
establishes a framework within which third-party developers can make money. It's a very good thing.
No. They told third-party developers that they.
I understand. I read TechMeme too, so I understand what the theory is. I'm suggesting an alternate theory, which is that this is really good for the ecosystem, including the third-party developers.
I think it's awful. It's an awful ecosystem.
Loic Lemure anticipated this, several months ago.
Yeah.
That's Loic in the background right now.
Screaming.
Yeah. Let me in. No, and he basically shifted his business model so that it incorporated, first of all, multiple platforms, and secondly, moved to the enterprise, which is where everybody is going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does his client even count then? I mean, how are they going to control that? Like, you have a Hootsuite and you have all these, you have all this input of different things. That's a
Hootsuite will survive based on analytics, not on anything else.
Yeah, but it still needs the client interaction. So what people could use?
What do you mean the client interaction?
It's these tweets coming through the stream.
Yeah.
And why do I need SeedsMake if I have the Yammer client? It's back to the same problem. Or if I'm on Salesforce Chatter, why do I need SeedsMake? I'm going to have the Salesforce Chatter client. Unless you guys are just going to buy SeedsMake and make it the default Salesforce Chatter client.
Well,
the point is whether there should be one or many. That's the debate, right?
No, it's not the debate. That's the debate.
Twitter just explained why we're only going to have one, because they're going to the monetization reason for existing is going to end up being only one.
They have
and in the enterprise, the security of having only one is going to be the reason that we only buy the Salesforce Chatter client or the Yammer client. We're not going to go with a third party because we don't trust third parties. Inside Rackspace right now,
that's not true. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of what's going on.
All right, wait. Put the two of them together. All right, see, when you're both on the screen,
whether to go with Yammer or Salesforce.
Robert, give me the two shot. Okay. Now you see what happens when you and this other guy are on the screen simultaneously?
Yeah.
Then if they're talking and you can't hear because you're talking, then you have to stop talking. And also, Kevin, you have to do the same thing. Can we have that?
It's Robert's Rules of Decorum.
Okay.
All right.
Luckily,
a first for the Gillmor Gang.
Luckily, Kevin is frozen due to the lack of bandwidth or alcohol or both.
Nice.
Kevin is always frozen.
Yeah, this is great. So go ahead, Robert. You were saying
the reason why we're having this argument inside Rackspace right now because we're just getting into seeing that these social systems inside companies are important. It's funny that an internet company is taking so long, but we're having these arguments. Is Yammer or Salesforce, or should we build our own thing? What's going on? And we're having intense debates about security. Enterprises do not trust third parties. We are even skeptical that Salesforce isn't looking at our private secret data, right? If Salesforce, if Mark Benioff had access to our private secret conversations, he would have a competitive advantage over Rackspace because we're talking about things that Salesforce would probably be interested in.
I'll hand this one off for the softball to Taschek.
We can't see any data. All we see is so abstracted and so high level, like, and it's made for managing the success of the customer, like are people logging in, and if they drop down percentage wise, that's pretty much it. And we measured against peers. We can't see any data at all. No one has access to any data. No one has access to any data center except for a handful of people. It's two-factor security, two-factor authentication from the security. I mean,
we do have one guy who's watching everything that Scoble says.
Yeah.
But that's the point. People do trust Salesforce. People do trust Google with their business emails all the time.
And Mark,
that's correct.
Kevin, we're trusting those two companies after years of relationships with
exactly.
them.
So your point about startups is well taken.
Does Seismic? The question I had was, does Seismic or does another third party have that trust level to get in between me and Salesforce if we go to Chatter, or me and Yammer if we go to Yammer?
But they do not. You're absolutely right. Those companies do not have the trusted security. They don't have the SIS trust and certification SAS 70 level 2. So for the audit controls and compliance, they're not audited every day by gigantic enterprises that come into their data center. That is absolutely true. But that doesn't have much to do with the client itself, because they could create a walled garden, a more open walled garden that people say walled garden is a very
I know, but the point was, in the consumer space, we're going to end up with one client because of the advertising model. In the enterprise space, we're going to end up with one client because of trust and security.
It's not true. I mean, so if you look at Open Social, what's happened there? Open Social we built for the consumer web, but it's now growing really hugely in the enterprise because people like having the abstraction that means they can write separate clients and separate pieces that talk to this stuff. And the enterprises like abstracting that stuff in that way because it means that they can keep control of the data and only release the data they want to those clients, or they can be only running in the browser as gadgets without actually touching someone else's data center. So
who's built an open social system like Yammer or like Salesforce Chatter?
Socialcast is doing stuff with that way.
Socialcast lets you put your own server inside your own firewall and keep every freaking eye out of it, other than your own employees. So that's a totally different way of approaching this problem.
The point is that if you have an enterprise class security model, the client security model matters less, as long as they form it. As long as you form the correct rigor around how you build an app on the client.
Yeah.
Right,
That's the point.
which implies. Go ahead.
Once you've sent it over the wire, it doesn't matter which client they're using to present it. If you're routing it through someone else's data center, then you have more issues. Yeah.
Right, but the thing that people don't trust, I think, about third parties, is more they don't have the scale with which to fail, so that they can be observed in how they correct their mistakes.
This is why it's wrong.
Twitter has had a very checkered past, but they have continued to evolve and to grow in spite of their failures. And over a period of time, people tend to start to trust that the data will be there. The issue of security around that data it's not orthogonal, but it is on a parallel path. And as we move from a consumer oriented environment to a consumerization into the enterprise, we're going to see the rigor, as John puts it, of security becoming paramount. And it's going to be very difficult for third parties to do anything other than to essentially walk up to the existing trusted players and be certified for the interchange across those networks. That's what we're going to start to see here, and that tends to devolve or evolve, if you wish, to the strong players. And the players that we're mentioning here, obviously I'm biased about Salesforce, but before I was at Salesforce, I was biased about Salesforce's model, which is a multi-tenant architecture, which mandates the security and and a trust relationship with the user. And the fact that, this has been validated by a great number of enterprise clients over a significant period of time suggests that when these services start to be directed at enterprise transactions, that they are going to have a much higher bar for entry. And I don't see how any of the players who are in the game right now on the client level, as far as the Twitter ecosystem is concerned, I don't see how any of them really can stand up to Twitter's muscle in this case. Yeah. Same way that Facebook basically shut out all, third-party clients. I mean, we don't hear anything about that, but where are they? There's, I've got one that I can't get to install on my iPad too. Well, among other things.
I'd like to hear about that later, but I think Twitter built up its entire user base by having an open platform for the client and also having the web client. And by shutting them down now, or
they're not shutting them down though. That's the misnomer.
Yes, they are.
No, they are.
This is just blogosphere.
This game is over.
It's blogosphere bullshit to say that this is a closed marketplace. They're opening up the marketplace.
They are not.
Of course they are. They
have said we're going to shut down your apps.
They have this. This is the same argument that we have with Apple. Not surprisingly, I don't agree with you. Right? I've spent the last 2 days in complete hell trying to map over from one system to the other, and the place where it falls down is in all these third-party apps that don't understand what their business model is. So I have to try and figure out with each one, do I care whether this thing is going to come over, or should I just abandon it?
It's from what to what, Christy?
Which apps do we care about? As I transfer from one backup to another backup, increasingly I have to evaluate whether I care about the apps that are coming across. Do I want to go back and log in, set up the preferences, whatever it is that I have to do, right?
Gotcha.
Okay. As a result, what we're in a thinning out period. We're in a consolidation period where people are reducing the number of apps that they count on and then build out from that place. That's the forcing function that Twitter
I don't know about that.
Is representing.
If this is an apps world and there's 165,000 apps that people are using on the iPad, what's the thinning out? I mean, are you talking? They're just
that's like saying that that there may be 165,000 apps, but I'm having trouble with 10 of them. Each person doesn't use 165,000 apps.
Scoble does, but I mean,
I use about 300.
You hear what and you don't even really use. I mean, you do a lot of this because you're interested and because it's your job. But from a practical perspective, I read the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal on the iPad. I use my Twitter client for most communications other than email and Chatter. Now, I'm sure that there are 3 or 4 other apps that I use occasionally, but it's occasional. And those apps, if you double-click on the button, they line up across the bottom of the screen. The so-called multitasking feature. That's the battleground that Twitter is addressing with this. Are we going to perpetually be beta testers for startups, hoping to make enough of an impact to avoid becoming a feature that's absorbed by some of the major players? That's what the marketplace is right now. And so to say that Twitter is somehow doing something Machiavellian, I mean, first of all, they've been doing something Machiavellian since the day that they shut Track down 4 years ago or whatever it was. They've been trying to expand rapidly enough to be able to find some monetization model that they can then move out and support. And they've got a network model around the clients now. And they own the client.
I don't think that's not Machiavellian. That's more pragmatic.
I agree. So what's your attack on them for making a mistake? I don't think they're making a mistake. What's the mistake they're making?
I think that they should. They should have more of a free. They'll learn more, right? What they're saying now is that they can deliver the best application on every platform, and I do not agree that they can. They're saying that, okay, we're done. We're the ones who can improve the product at the pace of innovation, at the velocity they need. And I don't think that's the case. I think that if they're a proper infrastructure company, and that they're a proper,
what is an infrastructure company? What is an infrastructure company?
They should be plumbing. They should be in everything. Twitter feed should be everywhere.
Okay, you're successful, so you go off and you sit there and you provide the water and the electric power. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Yeah, well, they're saying, we're going to make all the faucets also.
So you want to be like a Department of Justice. You want to basically be an antitrust against innovation.
I don't know where the hell you're going with this. They're saying, okay,
no, they're being the Department of Justice. They're legislating who gets to innovate.
They're not legislating against anything. Yes,
they are.
No, they're a free market company that says this is what our deal is. If you like it, great. If you don't, move on.
Yeah, to what?
Which we both, yeah.
Exactly. So, is that their fault that nobody's, Facebook has been faced with this obvious chasm of becoming an equal provider of a powerful data stream, and they've run away from it constantly. 2 years ago, I asked Zuckerberg whether they're going to, use the everyone status and open it up so that they can, provide an alternative to Twitter. And he said, yeah. Have they done it? No. So
in many ways they are an alternative to Twitter.
They're not an alternative to Twitter. They have no round-trip capability in terms of status messages. There's no stream coming out of Facebook that you can rely on. You have to go into their
comments now. They're opening up that. There's all these things coming up.
What are you're talking about Facebook comments as being them opening up. What's that?
An infrastructure.
Is this seismic? Okay. What's your point?
My point is they've seen this coming, and they've got 4 alternatives in there to Twitter. I
understand.
One of which is a generic Twitter API.
I was one of the people that suggested this many years ago, and we all understand. There have been the Bear Hug Camp and a million different scenarios. Dave Weiner continues to try and fight this battle, but the facts are,
and so do the StatusNet guys, and
and honestly, they haven't got a snowball's chance in hell of actually being successful at that.
Yeah.
So
I think they do.
I don't.
It's a more of a closed system, but they have a chance in hell to do it.
Well, hell, yeah. But on Earth, pragmatically speaking, John, as you suggested, pragmatically, Twitter is exactly correct in saying we've basically got a hold. We have set up, we've commandeered the metadata space, which they did with retweets and @mentions. We own that. They've said that. The only way that you can participate in that through
Facebook has @mentions in comments now, right? I believe they do.
Yeah. So comments that do not survive. If I comment into Facebook and then somebody else replies to me, I don't see that unless it's in email. There's no round-trip capability. I can't push something from Twitter in. I believe I still can. There was a couple weeks ago it was down. Robert, can I still push from Twitter into Facebook automatically?
I believe so, but I've turned that off. I turned that off a long time ago, so I'm not sure.
Well, I'm just.
I think it did get broken. I'm not sure if they fixed it.
Yeah.
Okay. But can they push Facebook comments, their threads back out? No, they can. They don't want to.
Well, I mean, what they're doing with comments is they want to take over the comment sections in other companies' brands, right? So that the comments will be part of their brand.
That's
brand building.
That's a different subject. I don't think that it doesn't really speak to the issue of having an authoritative status stream or whatever you want to call it. Twitter owns that. Nobody else does.
You're doing there can only be one thing again.
I'm not doing that. I'm just talking about what the reality is. Show me the thing that, StatusNet. So what? Friend feed, dead. Facebook doesn't do it. Don't participate.
A lot of it.
Google Circles. I mean, maybe somebody will do this. I doubt it. When Google Buzz came out, it was like the Pony Express. You tweeted something from Twitter, and it came in a day later, and it went out never.
It's a bit quicker now, I think.
You got to be kidding me. The alerts work great, but that's not inside the system. I mean, I haven't gotten any kind of Buzz, anything from Buzz in months.
Well, Buzz shows how hard what Twitter did, how Twitter accomplished what they did, how hard that was, because Buzz didn't even make a dent in the Twitter sphere.
I agree.
But Buzz had no clients except for the web, and if they had one, maybe it would have been better. I mean, they had Seismic, and it added a Buzz stream, but I don't. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't have worked anyway. But Twitter,
Buzz's problem was deeper than that, than having clients or not.
Well, yeah, it was not real time. It was.
It doesn't matter. It was a copy of friend feed that didn't really add any innovation and didn't have a way to get people into it in a real way.
When worse, they broke people's privacy expectations.
That was a PR
from
problem. I think that went away within a week. So I didn't.
You get one chance in real time. I mean, and they blew it.
Yeah, I don't even think that if they had privacy right from the beginning, it was a copy of friend feed. And sorry, copies just aren't interesting. I'm getting pitched so many freaking copies of all. Copies of Foursquare, copies of GroupMe, copies of this and that, and I just
exactly the fragmentation of the market. At South by Southwest is obvious. The story is there's no story.
Yeah. Well, what friend
I'm seeing tweets go through Buzz at the same time at the moment, so that is fixed. If you care, but
right. But what we're talking about is momentum, and we're talking about who is the de facto owner of the real-time stream? And the answer is Twitter.
Tweets coming over to Buzz look really crappy. I mean, on Buzz, I am taking my tweets into Buzz, and people don't like it. I don't get very much engagement at all on bringing that over. I'm doing it just to prove that this system just is not a good system. And it's working out that way. Google just doesn't understand how to get
the tweets are looking fast because the tweets are thinner than the Buzz posts. Yeah.
No, the Flipboard proves that theory completely bogus. You can make a tweet look really nice by doing all sorts of stuff with it.
But does Flipboard follow the requirements? It doesn't use the same UI as the Twitter clients. Is it going to be banned under the new regime? It's a consumer Twitter client.
Maybe. Your
favorite app may go away because of this.
The Flipboard people aren't too worried because their CEO is on the board of directors at Twitter, so I have a feeling that Twitter won't shut down Flipboard. But
that isn't really the way that things should work, is it?
Well,
I don't know. What is the way that things should work?
How do we get the next flip? The only way you get permission to use is to be on the board of directors of Twitter.
Well, let's outlaw Apple because they don't do things the way that the so-called
I'm not saying outlaw. I'm just saying that they're not to get people trusting them.
I trust Apple to deliver the best and most intricately and prophetically designed products that I can get during my lifetime, as opposed to sometime after the millennium.
Let's put it this way: there's a line around the block at South by Southwest to buy iPad 2s, and there's not a line around the block to get on Google Buzz.
There's. Can we put it in slightly other?
How could there be? Yeah,
how about
There's nobody
How often
here
do you
uses
hear-
Google, but I'm watching everybody in the industry, and nobody is using Google Buzz. I mean, 50 people are using Google Buzz.
I'm sorry
And
I mentioned it.
They say the
it was
numbers
only
are there.
an
They
example.
just simply are not there when you watch the system.
Google Buzz is an afterthought, which is going to be folded into Google Circles, which will then be folded into whatever the next Google failure is in this space. That's what I think. Anyway, what CNN thinks is that Twitter is it. They do not spend. They talk about how Facebook has had an impact in Egypt and in other countries, in the world situation.
Yeah.
But Facebook is a different kind of network, which is used to communicate directly with people that you think you know.
I think, since you brought CNN into this, I think CNN is in severe trouble. They are just getting their ass kicked and handed to them by Al Jazeera. And by the way, Al Jazeera likes Twitter too. So either way you go, they both.
Yeah, I think they're all in serious trouble, and they're not in serious trouble because the more that they become seamlessly integrated with Twitter and to some degree Facebook, the less they have to worry about. I mean, Twitter is a mainstream technology now. It's probably the fourth or fifth network of record, and it's moving fast. Once they have some sort of video capability, they're going to be indistinguishable from CNN. And I suspect that there will be some sort of an alliance by them and NBC and who else. I mean, NBC, because of MSNBC, has a certain cable posture. I mean, there's a shakeout going on. Twitter is the network of record now because sufficient numbers of mainstream people in the media are using it as their real-time message bus. Would you agree, John?
I agree with that. And when Al Jazeera has an iPad app or CNN has an iPad app, and they take the Twitter feeds in there and are pushing out basically and have that as the message bus, that's great, and that's helps build Twitter's model. But if they don't have the Twitter client, if that counts as a Twitter client, there's something that has to be worked out there, and it's going to break that trust that Twitter has built up over the years. I just think that's
ludicrous. They have never built up any sense of trust about what they're going to do to third-party developers. They have consistently ripped them off or pushed them back or shut them down. I mean, this is nothing new. As a matter of fact, this move is the most transparent. At least Dick Costolo knows how to be able to make an announcement as opposed to waiting for, it's like watching the Lenin's tomb to see whether Biz or Ev is going to do, are going to look to the left or to the right. Now we've got the CEO actually saying what they're doing. Here are the rules. This is what we want to do. Here's where you can make some money. Here's where you could probably make a lot of money because we're not going there. What about the analytics? I mean, why are they leaving the analytics hole open?
It's great for Twitter, and they're going to, and as they build up and they monetize, they're going to go. It's just like Microsoft did, and they're following that model. It's an old model, I believe, where Microsoft said, "Oh, here's where you can make your money, partners. We're not going into the space analytics. We're not going into databases. We're not going into disk compression. We're not going." I
agree with you.
And
that would be a mistake if they made that mistake. But right now, what they're saying is the greenfield is in the enterprise. Go for it. And I think that's accurate. I don't think that they have the same degree of control in the enterprise that they do. And if they were to go after the developers and third parties that are creating business-ready, transactional, trustworthy networks, they would get the degree of solidarity that would form around another network like Facebook or whatever Google's going to do would be astounding. Twitter is not going to give. It's like the Wisconsin. The Democrats have been asleep since 2008, and this union busting thing has broken open the Democrats and woken them up, and given them a surge of donations and incoming money and everything else, and an issue that they're going to ride through the next election. Twitter's not going to be that stupid as to incentivize their competitors to come after them about this. They're going to keep expanding what they do as a stable platform, and they're going to provide useful rules that third parties and partners can use in order to be able to transmit their data across the Twitter network. What else do we want?
I think what we want is that they should have figured out how to do this advertising model and monetization model at the bus level rather than at the client level.
But how are you going to do that?
Google does it at the bus level. I mean,
no, Google's a different world where they have a page that they put advertising on. That's not at the bus. That's not in the
sure
in
it
the
is.
search result.
It's back in the bowels of Google.
Result.
One at a time.
You're asking Twitter to mix advertising and editorial in the same stream. That's really dangerous, first of all, and second of all, it won't work. It moves too fast. My screen right now is moving so fast.
Your screen is not anybody else's, Robert.
I know, but things don't last on people's screens. I'm watching everybody at South by Southwest. They have screens that move almost as fast as mine. There's a lot of people here who follow a lot of tweets, and those ads would move.
Your car moves at
so
a highway at 80 miles an hour, and you see billboards, and they don't.
But that's
they
the
don't
way
register.
the world is moving. The world is moving toward what I'm doing on my screen, man. Come.
That's true. But what you're doing on your screen, Robert.
What's that?
There's faulty logic in what you're saying. If Twitter mandates that the only way that there's going to be a client app is their way, and things are moving so fast, then either they come up with essentially socially weighted filtering, or they're doomed. If their client's useless, then who cares?
Well, then it
becomes
sticking ads.
It's not different. It's exactly what the situation with search is. Everybody talks about how valuable search is. Granted, for a lot of people, it's valuable. I don't click on those ads. I just don't go there.
I don't even see them.
Right.
Ad blindness is what
ad
it was
blindness,
called.
Exactly. Yeah. So if we're going to get stream blindness because Twitter locks down their client, it's going to damage them, nobody else. If the value of the service cannot be extracted on the part of affinity groups in this real-time environment that we're in, as you can see, they shut down the internet in Egypt, and somehow everybody figures out how to be able to get the message across. Even Google figured it out. They switched it over to cell phones and SMS. The real time does not require a specific client, and no amount of posturing by Twitter about what's going to be effective and what isn't. It will still be driven by the same thing that drives all of these companies, including Apple and Microsoft, which is if a third party comes up with a better solution in the 10 minutes that it takes for them to get shut down, what is Twitter going to do? They're going to implement that feature, or they're going to lose traffic. They're going to drop from the level that they're at. They're going to drop. The usefulness of the service drops. If it drops to a certain point, and then there will be a move in another direction. Nothing about what Twitter has done for the last 4 years suggests that they're going to make that stupid mistake. So I don't know why we're beating them around the head for stating the obvious.
Anyways, I've got to run on. So I have some things to go and do back here at South by. So.
Well.
All right. Great.
The stream must move on, man.
Okay, Robert. Well, thanks for...
Is Robert Scoble in the room? All
right, we'll
And
struggle
by the way,
on without
that
you.
site is really funny, but it's totally inaccurate because I've been looking at it and I'm not even in the room I'm in. So.
What site?
Oh, there's a funny site. Kevin, can you post the URL in the chat room?
Is Robert Scoble in the room.com.
Yeah, and it uses the location on my tweets. So like if I tweet from the W where I am right now, it puts the location of that on a tweet, and then it looks that up, and then it compares it to where you are, and says whether you're in the room with me or not, or how far away we are. It's sort of funny, but it's not very accurate.
Okay.
And so we leave Robert Scoble.
All right.
In wherever he is. All right, thanks, Robert. We'll struggle on without you for a couple minutes.
All right, thanks.
Okay, so
All right, see you, Robert.
So Steve, to get back to your point.
Yes, thanks.
I think what this does is make it clear that these streams need to become a commodity that isn't just owned by Twitter. That's the obvious piece, right? I'm assuming you agree with me on that.
Say again.
I'm saying these update streams need to be something that isn't just owned by Twitter, because they can then block innovation on it. And you're right. If they start doing that, then someone will come up with something else.
Twitter does own the stream.
It owns a stream.
No, it owns the stream. It owns the real-time stream.
It owns a mainstream stream.
Okay, so I think it owns the stream.
So why are you working on Chatter then?
What do you mean, why am I working on Chatter? Because Chatter addresses the enterprise market. Twitter does not. Twitter is a carrier. Twitter is a carrier for enterprise messages.
Right.
Okay.
So the
So
point is, more than one company can have a stream of information and be useful. That model is generalizable.
only one company or entity can have the most valuable thoroughfare for
of course, that's
worldwide message bus. Who owns the worldwide message bus?
Nobody does. It's called email.
No, it's email. What's that? I go to email alerts. Come to my mobile device about 1 out of every 4 times at this point, and it's dropping. It'll be 1 out of 5, and then it'll be 1 out of 8 very shortly.
Yeah, well, Apple's email client isn't that good, true, but
What? Email is all right. So, I would agree with you that right now email, in terms of volume, is probably number 2 behind Twitter.
no, it's like 20 times the size.
Useful email.
Well, useful Twitter, Most of Twitter is shit too.
Ad mentions and direct messages on Twitter are extremely useful. They account for roughly.
Some of them are.
This is the same transition
Try
that we went
tweeting the
through.
word iPad.
What?
Try tweeting the word iPad. See how many ad mentions you get.
I don't understand what your point is.
The point is that Twitter is getting spammed too.
How you use an at mention cloud is a very strategic skill set, which is being developed by a number of people. I wouldn't want to tweet iPad. Why would I want to do that?
Well, you might want to talk about your favorite device.
I tweeted. Ad mentions are about the person, not about the theme or the trending topic. I'm not sure I understand what your point is.
I think, let me translate, Kevin. Let me give some subtitles here. The at-mention cloud is being tainted in some cases with the, I guess it's the Alyssa Milano effect, where everyone tweets her name for some reason because they follow her, and no matter what it is, in order to raise their personal profile or their attention scores and things like cloud.
But that gets worked through the system. It's not a significant signal, and the more that filtering tools are developed, the less that will be an issue.
It's a signaling tool in that it's escalating now in Twitter as more and more people are tweeting. But that said, there's a what you were saying is correct. Also, that it's totally useful when you want to state something and you want to include people into the conversation. The @mention cloud works really well, and that's what you see. That's what your mind. That's where this noise is good. Post that I've never written will come from.
You've written it. You just haven't posted it.
Exactly. I've written 2 of them, but eventually I'll post it. But you just scan through all that stuff. Whereas an email, it's kind of in your face, and it's really hard to get rid of.
We're talking about arguments from the dawn of track. Kevin, don't you recall that we talked about this? Yes. The thing about the original track and some of the track tools that were developed by open source developers such as I forget his name, but it still works, was the ability to be able to put in a flag that basically said, if I don't want to see bad actors @mentions, right?
Right.
Okay, so this
but you
is
end up
just
with the same space with
It's just a filter. It's just like if you've got a spam control on email, it's a spam
in fact, there's a Chrome
@mentions.
plugin now that, and who knows if anybody will use this, but you can hide certain types of tweets now through this plugin. It just adds a hide button into a tweet, and it'll just hide all the tweets surrounding it.
And you can also you can set up a display. I'm not saying it's been done yet, but you can set up a display which basically turns it into a chart with the people that you care about bubbling to the surface on individual @mentions. Whereas as John's pointing out, the flow of @mentions in general is an interesting data point. Just as long as you don't have to look at each one of them necessarily. As you start to see that cloud emerge, it's going to be incredibly valuable, and we're within weeks of that being true. Yet last night I was trying to figure out how to get my my unlimited account over on the iPad from the iPad 1 to the iPad 2, and I spent hours and hours and finally gave up. And the last thing I did before I went to bed was write this post that's on TechCrunch where I mentioned this. And I tweeted just generally asking the question. I got back maybe 10 responses, the last of which, or the most recent of which, was from a guy named Entangled State. I forget what his real name is. But he showed me what to do. He was ahead of. I finally got through to AT&T support and Apple Care support, and they walked me through it. It took me a couple of tweaks to get the client. I had to reboot a couple of times and do a bunch of stuff, but the answer was bubbled up from the @mention cloud extremely efficiently, and there were several requests to retweet the right answer, which I did, and then I put it in, I tagged it as a link, which I rarely do, in my TechCrunch post. So, this kind of information, it's kind of like a @mention Quora kind of a thing. You ask the question, you get the answer, and then you populate and push that answer out on the @mention cloud, and you develop an extremely powerful information source. Maybe even a new network. So when you ask me what I'm doing, with Chatter, you just heard it. And okay, so what about that?
But you're making my point too. My point is that it doesn't end up being just Twitter that can do this.
No, it does. It does end up being Twitter that is the gesture that you use to bring in the unintended or unanticipated serendipity of the network. It is the message bus. It is being ratified as a message bus by the way that, regimes around the world are collapsing as a result of its effectiveness. This is beyond. This is like, the transition the Beatles went through, where they started as a teen group, then they went and the teens got to be, in their early 20s, went off to college, then they became a college group. It's also like what Facebook went through. And eventually they got to the point where they were taken seriously by adults, whatever that means, and they became a worldwide phenomenon. And, and they have never been beat or certainly even reached in terms of their reach since. So there's nothing more galactic than where Twitter is right now. They are dominant. Now, they have their limitations in terms of what they can do to suppress the kind of business models that are going to draft off them. And they're doing a pretty good job of defining what those limits are. And I think that it's healthy, and I think that it contributes to people trusting them as an ongoing operation that's going to continue, which they certainly did not have that kind of trust a year ago or before. I think at this point, people are pretty confident that they are going to continue. And as long as they don't lock off, the ability to push 140 characters through their environment, they're going to be successful. And I don't think that they're going to shut off its usefulness on a global level.
You stunned me to silence.
Excellent. John, you want to argue with me?
Well, geez, the Beatles.
Let me look at the chat room. Yeah, well, the Beatles they always are the thing that nobody can argue with.
Yeah, when you throw that in there, it's hard to argue on what you're saying.
It's just an observation.
Well, I agree with parts.
The Beatles did stop issuing records in 1970. I mean, so the metaphor does.
Not the last I looked. I just bought 2 of them on iTunes a week ago.
Why the hell would you do that?
Well, that's like recording records.
Because I wanted to hear what the remix of
I said
Fool
the
on the
Beatles,
Hill.
not EMI.
What? No, it was the Beatles. It was George Martin and his son, and Paul McCartney and Ringo, and and the wives. It was the Beatles. I mean,
yeah,
if you think that the Rolling Stones still exist, I mean, there are some, including me, that think that when Brian Jones died, that the Stones were over. On one level, they were. I mean, that was Brian Jones' band. Mick Jagger was like the singer, right?
Okay.
All right, so the Beatles are still the Beatles, and they still issue records, and they were last year's, I think, second most popular act after Lady Gaga in terms of sales of new records that they remastered.
Yep. Yeah, but they're not new songs. That's what Kevin's point is. So
Right.
I don't think that 90% of the posts on Twitter are not new information either. What I had for breakfast is, an age-old sentiment. What's
Right.
people want to hear about iPad hell?
Yeah, let's do that. Because I'll have to go through it.
No, because I've already proven to myself.
That's what I get for not buying a first generation one. I'm okay.
Did you buy a second one?
Nope.
Well,
I was going to line.
If you wait long enough, you'll be able to get a Motorola box for whatever it's called, Blast Zoom. You're going to get a $399 Zoom with no radio.
Maybe, I don't know.
That's what Tech Meme says.
I haven't seen those either.
What's interesting on the new iPad, it's of course I don't have one in front of me, is the Broadcom connection, where they've gone to a new architecture which is much faster. That'd be really interesting for turning it into a gaming platform or something, you know, or more for the flight simulation, more real-time things that have to happen as far as data streams go. But yeah, I think that's great. But it's just you know, to me it seems like an iterative thing, not a world-changing event.
Which one?
And I think that the iPad 2. Of course, we've talked a little bit about this,
Maybe
and it has GarageBand and all the.
Maybe I'll give yours to somebody who's watching.
All right. Yeah.
You sure you don't want it?
I didn't say that.
Oh, okay.
I have the iPad 1.
Yeah, courtesy of the same line sitter as the iPad 2. Didn't you see my pathetic picture on TechCrunch?
Yeah, you know, Linda walked by my wife walked by the Stonestown store and said there's only about 20 people there. She was there around 4 o'clock. How could that be? Do they send everyone home?
That's not true.
No, it's just not accurate.
She had a picture. She sent me the picture.
She's wrong.
Was it outside?
No, inside the mall.
Yeah, no.
Stonestown
The
Mall.
way they do it,
Outside.
there's a line outside that goes around the corner and up toward UCSF, and that was the line that you're on. They let
UCSF?
They let 20 people.
It's 5 miles away.
Thank you. It's metaphor.
Okay.
What's a metaphor? So what they do is they let 20 people in to stand on the line inside.
Okay, I got
they're
it.
pushed into
Understood.
the store. Thank you.
Understood. I know you were there for a long time.
I was.
You suffered not only while you were there, but afterwards too, when you're trying to work with software.
All last night I've been suffering with it, and I still don't understand.
Hang on.
I'm going to start from scratch. It's easier just to buy a few more apps, you know, than it is to waste time trying to get my old apps to work.
That may be true, yeah.
But this, I mean, this is the piece that Apple hasn't got yet, right? They're talking about post PC, but you're still stuck trying to sync the damn things to PC.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what my thing
Android,
was.
I dropped one in the toilet. I bought a new one, and all the stuff came back.
Yeah, my point is that the same thing is true. I don't really want to be tethered to the cloud for the apps. I want to have the apps come down to the hardware and be able to be self-contained on the hardware. That's what I want. And
Which
and
hardware?
Apple is what just
What do you mean? You like a PC tether?
no.
Apple
I
syncing
don't
is
like
horrible.
it. But
Google has this mastered with the Android. I'm not a fanboy. I know you call me that, but when I lose a phone and get a new one, and it's a completely different operating system, and they upgrade the operating system, it just plugs in and everything's already there.
Of course,
I mean, it's just
everything that that is mediocre continues to exist and work perfectly.
No, it works. Everything works, and it works.
Everything doesn't work.
Everything I use works.
Exactly. So what I'm having to do is to boil it down. Slowly, everything is coming back. Once I finally figured out how to get my unlimited account transferred over, things are now starting to work. I still have to get my VPN reestablished. I haven't been able to do that because there's a secret that I don't have the answer to.
Are you hitting the more than 5 devices limit yet, or doesn't that apply to iPads?
No,
It does.
Yeah, but I think it applies to computers that the iPad syncs with, not iPad.
Right, because that drives me mad as well.
Yeah, and all I'm saying is that at some point, whether it's having to plug it in through a wire or be able to do it wirelessly, is irrelevant. That's what I mentioned in my discussion about this in the column today. I don't think that's what the problem is here. I think what the problem is here is a bunch of elaborate hoops that you have to go through in order to be able to get access to the technology the way that Apple provides it. And while I understand the criticisms of it, I don't believe that alternative solutions are any better. In fact, I think they're a lot worse because they don't provide the same utility. The combination of Google TV and whatever scenario or app or music store that doesn't exist on Android devices, all of that doesn't add up to what I can do trivially and simply with the iPad and with the iPhone and the Apple TV. So it all sucks. It just sucks a lot less than everybody else.
Sucks in different directions, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm in hell, but I can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
You have a choice of hells.
Well, that's your theory. I don't think I have a choice.
You're locked in Apple's trunk.
I mean, we all are veterans of that, thinking, but I just don't necessarily think that it's true. I mean, I'm saying that what I believe to be true is no longer true. You have 9 minutes of power. All right, let's. John, you want to sort of summarize, wrap up, talk about something new? You've got 8 minutes now.
Yeah, so the Twitter message bus. Totally agree. 100% with you that Twitter is a good message bus. I don't think it's setting a good precedent by stomping on the developers that helped build it into a system. Not to say that it won't work or be effective for Twitter, and maybe it pays off in the long run. I just don't think it's a good precedent now, and they had the opportunity to change the world, and they're not going to. They're going back to the same old stuff, which is why I left the industry to begin with, from the IT industry, because I hated that software and client and forced client and walled garden stuff, and I don't want to be back in there again. So,
okay, but so you've retired permanently, in other words?
Yeah, I'm shutting down right now. I will no longer appear ever.
Okay. I'll give you a chance, Kevin, in a second, but I just want to, before I forget, the situation in Japan, of course, is profoundly difficult, and we have people who in our family who are from that country and whose family and friends are being affected. Hopefully, so far, not the way that many of the people in the Northeast have been, but it's. I think that Twitter and these kinds of real-time technologies have really been very helpful in this environment. And when we think about the fact that these nuclear power plants are responsible for a lot of the power that runs all of what we're using, it's not a simple world anymore about how we be able to navigate these difficult situations. So our hearts go out to them, and also the people in Libya and in other countries that are having a lesser or more difficult transition into the freedoms that we take for granted. Kevin?
Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, watching the pictures from Japan has been a very sobering thing to watch here, and our hearts go out to it.
All right, I want to thank Rackspace and particularly Rob Legess for being the guy who's responsible for keeping Scoble in check, and also for bringing the show back to the air. I want to thank NewTek and their TriCaster for turning this into video. I want to thank Tina Chase Gillmor, our producer and director. I want to thank Robert Scoble, Kevin Marks, and John Taschek. I want to thank everybody who showed up, and especially those who would have liked to if they only had an iPad 2 and Ustream only had an HTML5 output. So we'll work on that. And thanks, Paul Esther, for thanking us for bringing back the iTunes. Actually, you should thank John Orlin and TechCrunch TV for making that possible. So I guess that's RSS, but I'm not sure. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.